Hey there, it's Dr. Justin. Today is our live Q&A. It's a great Friday here in Austin, Texas. So let's dig in. It may take a few minutes for the questions to roll in. Ready for it? Let's see. What do we want to chat about while we get some questions coming in? I would say, let's see here. Let's talk about breakfast today. Breakfast today for me, pretty simple. I had some pasture-fed pork and 3 pasture-fed eggs, which were great. Had a little bit of butter coffee, some MCT, some grass-fed butter in there, as well as a little bit of MCT, and then also a little bit of vanilla extract. So I'm feeling pretty good. Probably about 600 to 800 calories for breakfast. So I'm ready to roll. I'll probably get on my treadmill here while I'm seeing patients, get about 6 miles in before lunch. So I'm ready to go. All right, we got some questions coming in. Awesome, Nilma. Looking forward to chatting with you really soon too. Very great. Awesome, Samuel, heading to Austin. Hopefully the weather will be a little bit cooler than it's been. It's been hot the last week or two. Absolutely. I'm going to be on the water Sunday morning at Lake Austin doing some water skiing. So I'm excited, getting some good cardio in, but also some total body workout because water skiing is total body. If you ever done it, it's the best. All right. So any questions here, let them come in and we'll continue to lock and load. I'm here live on YouTube and live on Facebook at the same time. All right. So what do we want to talk about off the bat while we're letting the questions come in? Let's chat about thyroid for a minute. So I had a couple patients here come in with some thyroid issues this last week. Big thing that we see with a lot of these people is T4 to T3 conversion is low. So we get patients with adequate levels of T4, right? T4 is kind of the storage thyroid hormone, right? Triiodothyronine. Tetra means 4 iodine molecules. All right. And then what happens is we have a deiodination process that pulls the iodine off the T3, and that increases the metabolic activity 300 to 400%, 3 to 4 times. So a lot of these patients are having conversion issues that are making it really hard for their thyroid hormone to work. And the problem is a lot of thyroid hormones are basically synthetic T4. They're tetraiodothyronine with the sodium molecule to it, right? That's like Synthroid or Levothyroid or Levoxyl. So that's the big issue we're seeing with a lot of these people is just an inability to activate their thyroid hormone. All right, let's continue to roll a couple of questions. Is it best to take liver support at night before bed because the nights when the liver is supposed to do the most work, and can a pathogen like D. fragilis put more? Let's see if I can read that all the way. Put more stress probably on the body. I would say detoxification support can be done throughout the day. All right, typically morning and night is totally fine to do that. Again, we're going to be giving B vitamins, we're going to be giving liver tonifying herbs, and we'll be giving sulfur-based amino acids to provide the glutathione precursors. I would say try it out. See how you feel if you do better at night. Again, the liver hour is between like 1 and 3 a.m., 1 and 4 a.m., the liver and the gallbladder. So that totally makes sense that giving support at nighttime may be helpful. Give it a try. See how you do. Some people may get a little bit more stimulated with the extra amino acids and the extra B vitamins that may be necessary to run those systems. So I would just try it out and see how you do. If you have any issues, then try doing it more during the day and avoid night. But I think night's a good time to try to take it as long as you're not too stimulated. Let's see here. Does taking T3 help when there's a conversion problem? Yes. The issue with T3 though is it's a very short half-life and it's very fast. The absorption is very high. So if you're just taking like T3 by itself, that can be an issue. There's time-release T3s that are out there that tend to do pretty well. I'm a bigger fan of doing a T3 kind of combined with a glandular because there's protomorphogenic compounds or proteins in a thyroid hormone that are going to slow down the absorption. So that kind of time releases the T3. Plus you're getting other things like T2 and T1 and T0 and calcitonin that's not even going to be there in the T4, synthetic T4. And also the T3 or the T2 is not even measured. It's only measured in a research setting. You can't even order T2 in a LabCorp lab. And a lot of people that are taking T4, they look at their T2 levels and they're basically at 90% below where they would be if they were on a glandular. So it's good to be on something that's going to have all of it in there. Can a ketogenic diet be the solution to SIBO? Well, I say that would depend. If you're going on a ketogenic diet and it tends to be lower in FODMAPs just because fats and proteins tend to not have the the fermentable carbohydrates in them, of course. And if you're choosing a lot more vegetables that tend to be lower in FODMAPs, that may help just kind of by itself. If you're coming from a diet where there's a lot more refined sugar or more refined carbs or higher carbs in general, and you were eating more FODMAPs, then yeah, for sure, you may kind of stumble across it. But some people may still have issues because they're doing a lot of vegetables that may be higher in FODMAPs. So they may have to just be careful with the vegetables and make sure those are a little bit lower too. Dr. J, maca for men is an adaptogenic herb for balancing hormones. Yes, there are some phenotypes of maca that can be good for men. There's one company that I use that uses specific phenotypes of maca to help with male hormone balance. Again, with men, I tend to like things like eleuthero or tribulus, epimedium. So there are other herbs that can be used that have adaptogenic qualities that may be better for the male hormone profile. Like the eleuthero and the Siberian ginseng. Nalima says, my GI map results are a few months old. Is that still valid? I've not treated anything yet. My GI map shows positive C. diff toxin A, negative toxin B. Is that bad? So yeah, those results are still valid. And again, it's better to have only one positive and not both, because both positive are not a good situation with the C. diff. But yeah, that's important. We'll definitely have to talk about how we're going to knock out the C. diff. And typically, we do that with herbs and or Saccharomyces boulardii too. Does keto diet or anything else help eradicate genital herpes? Yeah, absolutely, right? A lot of times these viruses, herpes is a viral infection, right? Our immune system can keep it sequestered where it doesn't come out. Where, yeah, you may have the herpes virus like a lot of Americans do. Like cold sore is a herpes virus as well. But we can keep the immune system suppressing it down so it doesn't show itself. Again, herpes can only be passed with open sores. So if you keep the virus at bay and it never kind of rears its ugly head, so to speak, then functionally you're cured. And I know many people that have gone years and even decades without an outbreak because they've got their immune system so strong, for sure. As a doctor, what do you do with a female patient doesn't tolerate most of the supplements? Is that due to liver toxicity or due to the gut? So yeah, that's a great question. So number one, some people are just really sensitive, and also toxicity is a big component because your body tends to have to filter foods and supplements through the liver. So if you are on the sensitive side and your liver is really sensitive, we typically add in one supplement at a time. We start at a very low dose and we titrate up very slowly, just because if the body has a very low dose of something and then we can gradually go up, we give the body more time to adapt to it. We tend to use things that are more liquid too, so we can kind of bypass the gut, bypass the absorption mechanisms. And then we typically start with things that are more conservative, just like, let's work on diet first. Let's work on being able to digest your proteins and fats with enzymes and HCl. Let's add in sublingual things to start. So we're bypassing a lot of the digestive mechanisms. So that's how we typically do it. And in my practice, we have supplement reaction handouts that I've created over time that tend to work very well. And patients will just follow those accordingly and add everything in one at a time and go very slow. Utilizing ginger tea can be really helpful because of its anti-inflammatory benefits. And also bone broth and amino acids that tend to be very gentle as well. And then we can gently add in things like liver tonifying herbs or liver tonifying nutrients and or liposomal glutathione at very low levels to gently support the body's ability to detoxify. Hope that makes sense. Do you offer a package deal, consult, test, recommendations all wrapped up in one price versus shopping and step per hour? I don't do that. I know a lot of clinicians that do it, and I've had that conversation many times. The reason why I don't is because many patients are unique kind of in what they need. And I like the ability to make recommendations off of supplements, off of labs. And also some people are like really on point with their diet and their lifestyle. Some people are absolutely atrocious and they need so much more time and support. So I do it kind of a la carte so I can support people where they're at. Some need so much work. Some are coming in and they're just rock solid with their diet. They're rock solid with so many things where I can kind of customize and give them what they need versus support them into a path that's kind of fixed. So then everyone kind of can get the level of customization that they need. Are you able to shed light on excess sugar that contributes to hormonal changes? More specifically, how excess sugar, see here, I'm having a hard time reviewing comments on Facebook. I got to figure out how to do that. I may have to do it online here. So it's how excess sugar can, and I get ... I'll try to figure out what that means. But I think what this person is going at here, Ryan, is how hormones or how blood sugar can affect your hormones. So big thing is when we have high levels of insulin, insulin can create an upregulation of aromatase in men. All right. And aromatase is nothing more than an enzyme that converts testosterone to estrogen. So men get more female hormones when their insulin gets higher. And women, when they get high levels of insulin, they upregulate an enzyme called 1720 lyase, and that converts their estrogen to testosterone. That's part of the major mechanisms that drives PCOS. So again, this cruel joke Mother Nature plays on us. Insulin resistance causes female hormones to go to men and women. Insulin resistance in men causes male hormones to go to female hormones. So keeping insulin levels under check, under control is important. If you're insulin resistant, where you're making more insulin, then you really want to go lower carb, higher fat, moderate protein, and really make sure nutrient density is up. That makes a huge difference. All right. What do you believe could be the cause of constant recurrent mouth ulcers or canker sores? I actually have one right now, right up in here, really bugging me. And again, I went to a restaurant the other night and it happened after the restaurant. Could have been some kind of seasoning or cross-contamination that happened there, but gluten for me is the #1 biggest cause of things like that. So really be careful of gluten, especially in sauces and things that could easily drive it. Let's see here. I think I hit all of the ones on Facebook. Let's go back here to YouTube. Is collagen peptide feeds SIBO? I would say no with the collagen peptides feeding SIBO. I don't think that would. I mean, it's primarily going to be the fermentable carbohydrates that feed the SIBO. What natural solutions do you use for hyperprolactinemia? Well, typically hyperprolactinemia happens because dopamine's dropping, right? Dopamine's a tonic inhibitor of prolactin. So the more stressed you are, the more your adrenals are upregulated, the more cortisol gets jacked up, the more you burn through dopamine. Dopamine's the gas or the brake on prolactin. So if your dopamine drops, you're taking your foot off the brake, prolactin goes up. So getting the stress under control adrenally, getting the stress under control neurotransmitter-wise, supporting adrenaline and dopamine amino acid precursors. And of course, doing all the diet and lifestyle things, eating at regular intervals, healthy proteins and fats at each meal, and getting adequate sleep as well. Let's see here. You talked about chumming water during the fungus protocol. Can you do the same thing with H. pylori, eating small amounts of gluten and sugar? Oh yeah. So with H. pylori, yeah, I mean, H. pylori and fungus tends to be constantly connected. So yeah, I would just try adding in more carbohydrates. I wouldn't do it necessarily with gluten and sugar, like refined sugar, but I would do it with like more carbohydrates, like maybe more fruit or a little bit more starch, and see how you do. That could chum the water, so to speak, and allow those critters to come out while the herbs come in and knock it out. Do you prefer the Genova organic acid test to the Ion 40 for new patients already on a keto paleo template, but with a very low muscle energy? Yeah, I would do the organics. That's just the one that I'm more, that I've used more and have more experience with. Again, I like that test, especially if you have low energy, because we can really look at the mitochondria function. We can look at how you're generating energy from fat. And we can also look at B vitamins and neurotransmitters, which are really important if you're having issues in that area. Let's see here. Anything else? What's the typical treatment to resolve T4 to T3 conversion issues? Couple things. So number one, making sure we have the nutrition component down. Nutrition being vitamin A, copper, zinc, magnesium, selenium. Those are going to be the key things for nutrient conversion. Number two, insulin resistance, making sure that our insulin levels aren't too high. And then if we're going very, very low carb and we're having thyroid symptoms, making sure that our insulin's not too low. So if you're starting to have low thyroid symptoms and you've been low carb for a while, we may want to ratchet up those carbohydrates again. And then obviously number three would be getting the cortisol levels dialed in. So if we have adrenal issues, that can affect conversion. And then addressing infections, and then gut bacteria has a big effect. And then also liver detoxification has a big effect as well. Let's see here. Tom Brady just turned 40. He the video about his diet or lifestyle. He seems to be getting younger and better on the field. Yeah, Tom's an amazing guy. I study about him and learn about him a lot. His trainer is Alex Guerrera. He's an interesting guy. Again, Tom's kind of a more of the acid alkaline kind of diet if you look at what he's doing. But in the end, it's really a paleo template. If you look at it, it's 20% meat. It's a ton of vegetables. He barely does any fruit. And he does 0 nightshades. So it's kind of a modified paleo template, autoimmune template. If you look at his sleep, he gets about 10 hours of sleep a night. So his sleep is ridiculously on point. Again, Tom being a professional athlete and famous, he's very wealthy, so he can afford to create an environment where his professional cooks come in. So he's gotten his environment kind of dialed in from awesome foods being around. If you look at what his snacks are and his desserts are, he does avocado pudding. So he's doing like really good avocados with dark chocolate and tiny bit of stevia there. So even his desserts are dialed in. The guy is just rock solid. His training is really interesting too. He has lots of trainings to work on muscle lengthening, where a lot of times people train and they do things to shorten the muscles to make them look bulkier and bigger, hypertrophy, so to speak. He's trying to make the muscles longer so they can be more elastic and pliable and absorb force. Because when you're getting hit and you're running, right, if your muscles don't absorb force as well, that force either goes into the muscle or goes into the tendons, the ligaments, and the bone. And then you get sore, you get tissue breakdown. And then what happens is in the NFL or any professional sport is as you get older, the problem is you get injured and then you come back a little bit slower or a little bit weaker. You can't quite throw as fast. You can't quite run as hard. You can't quite cut as fast or as hard. And that's the issue. And then you slowly get yourself out of the league. The thing is with Tom, he has the diet dialed in so well. He has the rest dialed in so well. And he has training dialed in a way to really work on muscle lengthening and muscle pliability versus muscle bulk. There's a lot of flexi bands and such. So that's part of the reason why he's so good. I'm working on studying more about what he's doing, and I'll bring you more updates. But that's a great question on that, James. Do you think meat that's advertised as all natural, no hormones, no antibiotics, but lacks the organic label is safe or as good as grass-fed organic? It depends, right? You got to know the farmer. So some people, they don't pay the $5,000 or $10,000 a year to say that it's organic, but it may be at the same quality. So you want to figure out what they're doing and kind of what their farming methods are, and see if it's just hey, they're not paying for the title, or if it's actually poor quality. But of course, if you get the grass-fed organic, I think step 4, step 5 plus that Whole Foods has, that's obviously best. Andy Cutler used to say that if one has heavy metals, it doesn't matter how much GI killing, metabolic support you have, parasites and yeast will not diminish. What do you think? Again, it's all about timing. It's all about the sequence of how you're doing things. I'm familiar with Andy Cutler's protocols, 3 days on, 11 days off. He does like DMSA and then combines it with alpha lipoic acid and DMPS. I'm familiar with that. My issue is you got to address the gut stuff, because if you're not digesting food, if you don't have good regularity with your bowel movements exiting the body, so to speak, you're going to reabsorb a lot of toxins. And because a lot of heavy metals are going to be dumped out via the liver and the gallbladder and via the intestinal tract, you really want to make sure that your gut's doing well so you don't reabsorb a lot of toxins. So I always deal with the heavy metals in body system 3 after we've addressed the hormones, or after we've created a foundation of a healthy diet and lifestyle and digestion. Number 1, after we fix the hormones. Number 2, after we fix some of the gut and immune stuff. And number 3, we'll work on some of the nutrients and then detox. And then we'll hit in some of the heavy metal detox on top of that. So yes, absolutely. But I'm a bigger fan of doing it in that order specifically. Let's go back here to Facebook questions. I think we hit a lot of the major issues here. Any other questions, guys? Let me know. If not, I'm going to jump on to my next patient. Let's see here. How accurate are food sensitivity tests like the ImmuPro? Not sure about the ImmuPro. Again, there's a couple of food allergy companies that I think are good. Eliza Act Biotechnologies is good. MRT is good. Not so sure about things like the ALCAT. I've heard some discrepancies of people taking, vials of blood from their body, 2 vials, and then putting the name different and getting 2 different tests. So food allergy stuff, those are the good ones that I like, MRT and Eliza Act, but I'm just not a huge fan of it, because if someone is eating a whole bunch of blueberries and they have a leaky gut and they get tested for food allergens and it comes back with blueberries as being the issue, well, now they're eating raspberries. And if we were to run that test next month, raspberries would come back. So then what do we do, right? What's the action plan? A lot of times it's not going to be the root cause to do a lot of these things. Of course, we get people on a hypoallergenic kind of elimination autoimmune diet that's going to put the most to be the most anti-inflammatory, the least allergenic kind of diet, and then add a rotation element so the same foods aren't coming in there all the time. Because even if you have a really good anti-inflammatory diet, the same foods can cause problems. So if you love it, rotate it, get the gut fixed, get your digestion fixed. Are you going to deliver your baby when the big day occurs? So basically our delivery date is going to be August 21st. So we are super stoked. I will not be delivering the baby. We actually have to have a C-section. I'll do a podcast on this later on. My wife, a few years ago, had to have a fibroid removed because it was just too large. It was about the size of a baby's head, and any natural methods would just take too long. So we had to have her fibroid removed. And because of that, there's a little bit of weakness in the uterine lining. And no obstetrician or midwife would ever allow for a natural delivery just because their license could be taken away if anything were to happen. There's a slight increased chance of hemorrhage and the mom and the baby dying if we were to do a natural pregnancy. So we're forced to do a C-section. As much as I do not like that, it's just what we have to do. I'd rather have a, at-home birth, natural, all that stuff. That's a better way to do it for the mom and the baby, but we have to do what is best based on the cards that we are dealt. So a little bit different in that situation, but I can do another podcast or a Q&A and talk more about that. Best liver stimulating tonifying herbs, milk thistle, silymarin, dandelion, fringe tree, artichoke root, ginger. These are all really great herbs to help with the liver. What's typical treatment to resolve T4 to T3 conversion problems? I think we already addressed that question already. And I know you offer great lab packages to U.S. clients. Does that work for international patients? Yes. Yeah, it depends. Some labs make it difficult on the international side, but we have certain ones that I like and still will use and ship pretty well and have good record of not being rejected at customs and such. Hope that helps anyone. Any last questions? I'll hit it before I got to jump on to my next patient here. Today's been a really good talk. Lots of great questions. Love the Tom Brady question. Love the questions about the baby. Wish I could be delivering my baby, but regretfully, that will not be in my cards. Let's see here. Any other questions, guys? What do you think? What do you think? All right. I think we're going to call it a day here. Nice half-hour Q&A. You guys have an awesome day. Thanks a lot, James. Appreciate it. We will talk later, Facebook, and we will talk later, YouTube. Thanks a lot, guys. I will see you all next Friday. Same time, same place. Take care. Bye.